Greetings. This is Skylar Saunders Singh. What's current? Yesterday, I totally crashed out. I did not know the audio was messed up. If the audio is messed up today, again, tell my dumbass. Let me know as quickly as possible. I will have it resolved. I will take down the show and start over. I wanted to test and see what the problem was. I'm glad I kept that stream up because I didn't know if I was speaking too lowly or if it was some kind of you guys said I sound like a robot or Daft Punk or it was a problem, it was a hindrance. It was definitely a distraction from the show. I may cover that story again later um in a few more episodes from now. But I'm just gonna keep on marching on. There's no real order to the stories, and especially since I don't want to sensationalize, anybody or say like, oh well, he had the greatest. Texas, do I sound good? How does my sound? How's the audio? Go back to audio. Texas, what am I sounding like? Can you hear me? Do I sound like this? That's how it sounded like. I was like, wow, they weren't kidding. I thought it was just because I was speaking though. No, it was some kind of robotic malfunction in the computer system. I don't know what happened. What do I sound like, Texas? Do I sound all right? Does it sound normal? You got to tell me. All right, so let's just hop into this story. The Taco Bell Strangler. He's known as the Taco Bell Strangler. This is Henry Louis Thomas from North Carolina. He had a murder rampage. Sounds okay. The sound must sound all right. It must sound okay now because he's making little jokes. Sound like a lost soul to me. No, I'm found. I found my soul. Thank you very much, though. But no. Thomas. We have the Taco Bell Strangler. He's so called the Taco Bell Strangler because he was a manager at Taco Bell for a brief stint of time, and he he was known by that. Every time there's always some kind of strangler or murderer or rapist. It's like they have a special name for him. I hope that helps and not just trying to sound cute. You found Star. He's not your. That was cute. That was cute. But anyway, yeah. So he is currently on death row, serving a 9 death sentence term for 11 victims that have been confirmed. So he is a monster. He is a predator. Deserves to be behind bars and away from society. I don't care if he was abused or molested. There are people that have been abused and molested, and they live productive lives and selfish, great, wonderful lives. Just because you're abused or molested doesn't mean that you have to be like a murderer or a rapist or anything like that. That's a piss poor excuse in my book. So this guy, he lured young ladies. He was very disarming. He was he was like a gentle giant, I guess you can say. He got really big off the pig, in prison. It looks like. He was a naval veteran. He was honorably discharged from the service in 1988. Very simple, Texas. I'm gonna break in for a few moments. I'm gonna break in because Texas is bringing up points. Still don't understand how you can say who's good or bad if you're an atheist. Very simple if you're an atheist. Atheists are the only ones that can say it because we don't have any faith-based, initiative. We have reality-based. We can evaluate character based on virtues and values. That's how. Okay? All right. So, like I was saying, so prove it. The burden of proof is on you, Texas. You got to prove that. Prove it. So anyway, this guy, so evil, so vicious. This is in the 90s, and this is a weird time period because this is the height of the crack era, the late 80s, early 90s. It was certainly grimy. Who said that? But anyway, he capitalized on that idea. I don't know if he knew it, but he came up lucky because the cops, they weren't focused on rapists and serial killers. There was a very limited amount of investigators in any, department, terrorism, rapists, murderers, arsonists, anybody. There was like literally like 7 or 8 investigators. There wasn't like a team like 10 or 20. There's only like 7 of them, to go between all of them. Let me answer Texas, because this is interesting how he wants to not engage into the story, even though I thought this would be up his alley. He wants to talk about black criminals. He says, no, the proof is on you. You can physically see where I got my morals. My mother taught me them, and her mother taught her, and so on. And respectfully, you're all wrong, because they're based on faith. They're based on faith. It's not based on reason. Like with Thomas, he was based on faith. Actually, all his dealings were not reason based. They're based on, or maybe not even faith. Maybe his were based on nihilism, a nothingness, a sense of nothing being present. And he couldn't understand. He couldn't comprehend, or he feigned non-comprehension, and that spurred him to do these crimes. And I think they're all women. They're all women, all black women. And that's another thing. As an atheist, who is to say killing is wrong? An atheist who has rational ideals. If you have rational ideals, you can better explain what is right and what is wrong. It's very simple. Read a book called The Virtue of Selfishness. You will find in that the distinction between what is good and evil, what is proper and what is not proper for a man's life and for any life, based on whatever they are. If it's a plant or an animal. A plant seeks the sun, it seeks water, it seeks to grow. It doesn't dam its own leaves, it doesn't dam its own flower petals. It wants to live. Man is the only destructive, self-destructive animal on the planet. You can argue that lemmings are there, but lemmings don't have the capacity for conception, for conceiving things, the conceptual level. Where does an atheist get rational ideas from? I said from existence, from reality, from the truth, from metaphysics, from things that exist. That's where atheist gets rational ideas. Not like Mr. Thomas. Here we go. How do I sound, Mr. Rick James? Do I still sound like I'm underwater again? I looked at the footage. I still have the video. I'm going to download it. It was horrible. It was terrible. I didn't know what you guys. I thought you guys were saying I was just speaking too low. I'm going to have to start speaking low maybe in a few minutes, but for now I can speak regular voice. Based from what though? I said from existence. That's from what? Texas? Rick James says Skylar Saunders C's voice is back to normal. Okay, great. Folks, no need to hide away anymore. We are here to stay. Fact. I appreciate that, sir. Thank you. That's a wild picture you got in your as your avatar, by the way. I just noticed that. But yeah, so the funny thing is, this is a weird thing, how many of the attackers, how many of the rapists and the murderers are atheists and objectivists? Absolute objectivists. None, because you can't say, maybe they studied objectivism, but they were never objectivists. If they were to commit these kind of crimes, that means they were never objectivists in the first place. Texas's existence, that doesn't tell me anything. That is no evidence, because if we're going off existence, that there's been people who think killing people are okay. There's people who think eating people are okay. Okay. Objectivism doesn't. Objectivism rejects all of that and emphasizes reality. And Rick James says, we talking killers, not all of them are bad. Some just have their demons. Well, they're all bad. They're all evil. They're evil. Once you cross that line into raping or murdering somebody, you're evil. If you're robbing someone, you're defrauding somebody, you're evil. That's disgusting. So, oh, Texas is going at Rick James. On the other side of the planet, on the other side of the, the continent, excuse me. Texas, I have my demons. No, but Thomas, let me get into this video. I got a video. Hold on.
Right here on Channel 9, 2020 gave you new insight into Ted Bundy's vicious past and crimes from the 70s.
2 decades later, a serial killer here in Charlotte terrorized the community as well.
A man that victims never saw coming, someone who hid behind friendship before then revealing himself to be a monster.
Our veteran reporter Glenn Counts covered the capital murder trial of Henry Wallace back in the 90s. Tonight, he sat down with the family of Wallace's final victim, still carrying the weight of that loss all these years later.
Henry Louis Wallace moved to Charlotte in 1991. What soon followed was a wave of death and grief unlike anything this town has ever seen.
And first-degree murder, rape, and robbery of Deborah Slaughter.
Linda Moore is the sister of Deborah Ann Slaughter, who was Henry Wallace's last victim.
She missed our children graduating from high school and our niece's wedding.
Only the grace of God got us through it, and we went through it day by day, one step at a time.
Lovey Slaughter is Deborah's mother. Wallace confessed to killing 9 women, but police believe there are at least 2 other victims, and they didn't figure out that there was a serial killer at work until the very end. They had not identified the suspect, but warned the public. Deborah was still alive and was scared and was thankful when a familiar face appeared at her door. Henry Louis Wallace.
She didn't think twice about opening the door because obviously he had always been very nice to her.
In his taped confession, Wallace revealed other victims thought the same thing, that this was a man they knew, a man they trusted, and in many cases worked with at fast food restaurants, never realizing he was a monster.
I did see her body, at the funeral home, and I saw what he did to her. He just mutilated her body.
Slaughter was stabbed 38 times, a terrible burden for her family, especially her father, Alfonso, who passed away 7 years after the murder.
I think he kind of blamed himself because he was the dad, and your dad wants to protect their children. And I think it was very, very hard on him. And I don't think he could forgive himself, even though he didn't have anything to do with her death.
The family is speaking out now because they don't want their loved one to be forgotten.
She has a name. Her name is Deborah Slaughter, and Deborah Slaughter has a family who is still missing her a lot today.
Wallace was given 9 death sentences. He has been on death row since 1997. All of his appeals have been shot down, but right now there is no word on when his sentence might be carried out. In East Charlotte, Glenn Counts, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Of course, Deborah Slaughter and all of those women deserve to be remembered. You can find more of our past stories about Henry Wallace by searching at WSOCTV.com. And we've also put together a special about Ted Bundy. You can find that on our Amazon Fire, Roku, and Apple TV apps. And that special is airing Saturday and Sunday at 3:30 and 9 p.m.
Okay, there you have it. This part pissed me off too because it was all black women. It was all women of color. It was like a perfect storm of evil. And like how he let, I'll see you, Hemp Lord. Thank you, sir. Make sure you tell at least 1,200 people so I can get these watch hours up. I'm close to 1,000 subscribers, But I need to get these watch hours up. I need to get as many people watching these videos as possible. So make sure you tell at least 1,200 to 2,000 people to watch the videos. Anyway, I appreciate you, sir. I see you. Thank you. Salute. Things piss me off. The police, not their fault. The federal government's fault. The state's fault. You know, they're just being law enforcement. And so the name of the game during that period, during the late 80s and early 90s, was crack cocaine. Crack cocaine, crack cocaine. We got to crack down on crack. We had to have units specified for crack cocaine. They were not even prepared in any way for some wave of murders and slayings to occur in the North Carolina area, the Charlotte, North Carolina area. So they're worried about the drugs. They're worried about the quote-unquote war on drugs, a war on an inanimate object, rather than taking up with special victims units and stuff like that. Like, that just pisses me off to no end, because drugs should be legalized, totally decriminalized, totally legalized. I know I'm pontificating now, but I'm just going to use this little bit of the show just to say this is a perfect example of how something there's no criminal activity, outside the law. It's like it's a law, but it's really not a crime. There's no one being hurt. I mean, by the activity. You'll be hurt by the drug itself. You have terrible health, but that's none of the state's business. It's none of the government's business what you do with your body, your own body. It's business when you do with somebody else's body. That's what is the main concern. Or their concern is what you do with your body in the sense of you don't want to do anything like that at all. Scott just want to pop Percocet whenever he wants. No, I never popped a Percocet. I never smoked marijuana. I'm for marijuana. I'm for cocaine. I'm for fentanyl. I'm for it all on the streets. And we should have rehab centers popped up all over the place and make billions of dollars off of people's health being recovered instead of their pain. Because that's what the war on drug is really doing. It's profiting off of pain. It's only sending more people into prison system. It's only sending more people to, some rehab centers, but maybe they don't really have the idea of going there because they don't have the education. That's one thing that has to happen. There has to be an education as to what people are doing with these drugs. That's a fact. So it goes back to Thomas. Thomas was an ogre. He was a monster and a terrible human being. He was a no good, very bad, terrible, horrible, no good, very bad person. And he still is. He's on death row. Now, Texas knows about his state. His state, Ron White said about 20 years ago in a stand-up routine, he said, most states are trying to get rid of the death penalty. My state's trying to put in an express lane. Or people can just stop doing drugs. Crazy thought. Well, I say the same thing. Don't start drugs. Before you even start drugs. Don't do drugs to begin with. But it should be legal. You should have the opportunity. You're adult. If you're 17 years old, I just say 17 because that's the age you can enter the military and fight and possibly be mutilated or die or go crazy. Like I went crazy when I went in the military. Okay, so I don't have to talk. No, they're awake. But does the sound still? Does my mic sound nice? Does everything sound good? Did the audio and the news clip sound good? Sound well? Sound great? On proper grammar. But I know I understand what you're saying, Texas. Or if people can just stop doing drugs. That's why I say for the rehab centers, there should be private rehabilitation centers for entrepreneurs and it should pop up on every corner. Like you see a liquor store on every corner. You see, you know, a church on every corner. It's either a liquor store or a church in a city. You see, or a bodega. So that's all I'm saying. But anyway, Thomas, this guy, he did the same things that anybody else does. He was abused. He took it out on everybody else. He's a loser. Like, it's just disgusting. 11 confirmed, and he's serving 9 consecutive. But he had 11 victims, but 2 were not confirmed. 11 victims, but 2 were not confirmed. So he had 9 death sentences back to back. Texas says, Sky, thank the Lord, people that think like you will never be in power. Well, there are already people in power that think like me. His name is Troy Star Terrain. Her name was Ayn Rand. They are in power. So, it's not that they think like I thought like them, but it's not even about that. It's about you thinking on your own. That's the main draw, that you think as an individual, that you don't become a zombie or a vampire off of somebody else's ideas. That's the best part about objectivism. People that matter. So Ayn Rand didn't matter, and Mr. Troy Star Terrain didn't matter, and John Stossel doesn't matter, and Dr. Jerome Brook doesn't matter, and Tara Smith doesn't matter. Dr. Tara Smith doesn't matter, and Dr. Salmieri doesn't matter. There's a lot. Texas said, Sky, you said think on your own, but you just said you think like other people. Well, I'm saying you have to think like your own on your own. If it weren't for Mr. Troy Star Terrain or Ayn Rand, I wouldn't have these thoughts. But I had to think for myself. You don't just say, oh, well, they said it, so it's true. No, you say, is it true? Should I think these things? Do I have to do this? If the answer is yes, then you continue with it. That's what I said. But anyway, I digress. I blame the drugs that the VUD gives you. Well, you can blame all you want. They keep me on my ones and twos, and I don't have any problems in the bedroom or anywhere else. I'm all right. I have no issues. I take all kinds of drugs, and I still am great. But we digress. We have to talk about Thomas. Texas is afraid to confront Thomas because he harbors. No, I didn't get a man. I'm still by myself, by my lonely, which I like, which is fine with me. In the bedroom, pause. Oh yeah, here's another one. Argentinian president, the president of Argentina. Is it Argentina? Excuse me. He has all kinds of pro-free market ideals, and he's instituting them in his own country, and he's revolutionizing it and making it more capitalistic. So, do you want to know about who matters? Who are in high places? Malay. That's somebody that's definitely in a high place. Texas. Go check that. Go do your research. Holla back at me. Now Texas is trying to be cute. That was cute. I'm not even going to repeat what he said. But okay, his country might be an asshole, which I disagree with. That's why he's in position. That's why he's in power. So he can reverse everything that's going on. Same thing that happened in South America with Chile. Chile was in a state of disrepair. Then it was revolutionized because of the Chicago boys. Now, the leader, I can't think of his name right now. I think something Shea. I can't think of the name, but he made it a hellish place to live, despite its gains. Chile during the late 20th century. Chile was revolutionized. Just little bits of capitalism experimented with, and that's what you get. All right, so I'm getting off topic. I know. I'm getting off topic, but I have to address Texas because he's just a lost soul. He's himself is without a home. He's not in a proper state of mind. He's in a state of faith and mysticism, which I disagree with and I disapprove of. But he's still, you know, you can have faith, but I can still disapprove of it without disapproving you as a person. That's how it is. Okay. So Thomas, this guy mutilated bodies. He dumped them over in wooden lands. There are still pieces of evidence that are still being found. He was sloppy, and then he was together at the same time. He was slashing women, then he was strangling them. He was all over the place. He was a very, you know, undisciplined. Thank God there is no God, but thank God he was undisciplined in his approach as a serial killer, and that he was apprehended in 1997. 1997. It's been was it? Hold on, 28 years. 28 years he's been on death row. 28 years. So we have to really look into that. We have to decipher whether this boy in a man's body, you know, this child, really had any kind of sense about him at all at any point in his life. I mean, he was in the Navy. He got an honorable discharge. You have to do something right at least to just get like the honorable discharge. At least to get an honorable discharge, you have to do something right. That's a fact. So if we have to, you know, delve into his history, you know, his pedigree of this just complete disembodied and derangement, you know, just we have to look into that. The Taco Bell Strangler. These names are always some cute name. It's like the Taco Bell Strangler and the Southside Strangler and this. Just, I mean, I really hope they mean something. I hope they help out to solve cases, solve future cases or something like that. Because it's like, why give them these cute names? It's like, yeah, I'm the Taco Bell Strangler, almost like, you know, it's almost like a badge or something, or some kind of crown or something like that we place on these deviants, these monsters' heads. He's no different. He's no different. Thomas is not special. He's not a good person to look up to. Not somebody that he pretty much revoked his position as a military person. You know, he forfeited that. He definitely forfeited his position as a veteran. I don't call him a veteran. He's an ex-sailor. He's not a sailor anymore. He's an ex-sailor. As they say about Marines. Marines, you know, once a Marine, always a Marine. Unless there comes with an asterisk at the end of that. Unless you're Lee Harvey Oswald or I think it was Whitman at the top of the tower that was picking off people. He was in the Marines, and Lee Harvey Oswald was in the Marines. Once you start, you know, picking off people from a tower or assassinate presidents, you're no longer a Marine. You forfeited that title. You forfeited it. It's not always once a Marine, always a Marine. No, you forfeited that. But just as the ranking of African American serial killers, I don't know what it is that I have never heard of him before. Could it be because they were all black women? Could it be because they were all women that were on the outskirts of society? Could it be a combination? Was it embarrassment by the police force? They're like, damn, we were looking for people selling crack, and this guy was out here murdering and raping women. Like, what do you do with that? How do you handle that? How does that go? That's what I want to know. I'm going to see if I can find another video. I don't think I can, though. really isn't. I'm looking for him right now. Yeah, he got big off the pig. He was pretty I'm looking for right now, and I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing anything. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. I don't see it anywhere. Okay, Rick James says, ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching a Sir Skylar Saunders Seas production. Please leave a like and subscribe. Thank you, Rick James. Appreciate that, sir. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Because I'm putting in work. I'm just, I mean, it just pissed me off when I was reading the story. I was like, the cops weren't focused on what? They didn't have many investigators to do what? I couldn't understand it. I couldn't even fathom it. I couldn't keep it in my mind. It didn't make any sense whatsoever. They're so concerned with people who are selling crack. So concerned for little Tyreek on the corner with Nikes and a starter jacket and a hat. Cop back to the side. Hold on. All right, so how to do that. Okay, so got 4 people in here. All we need is 6 more people, and we got a party. Salute, Uncle Sky. Salute to you, Black Cuddy, sir. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's my nephew. That's my nephew. I'm a big uncle. I'm big Unc. Only he can call me Unc, though. Nobody around me can call me Hunk. Salute to you, Black Cuddy. Are you familiar with this case? Are you familiar with the Henry Louis Thomas case? Have you ever heard of it before, Black Cuddy? Have you ever considered it? Have you ever thought about it? I mean, it's just another loser. He's on death row right now. Not really. Okay, that's cool. I just found out about it, 2 days ago? And yeah, it just pissed me off. You know, just the fact that one factoid. Just that one factoid. I could do some research on it. Yeah, that's cool. Do your research. I did my research. It's very sordid, very ugly, very nasty. Like all these serial killer stories, it's not pretty. It's not nice. If you were up close to it, it wouldn't smell nice. You know, it wouldn't look nice. You know, a lot of people had closed caskets because of these serial killers. I'm sure Thomas, like Deborah Slaughter's sister, she says her body was mutilated. She saw her at the funeral home. I bet they didn't have an open casket. Bet you they didn't have an open casket. I'm just, you know, riffing. I'm just guessing. This is just guesswork. I would imagine that they didn't have an open casket. I mean, who would want to see their loved one in such a distressed and distorted way? And it's just this, the mind. It's the great series that only had 2 seasons. 2 seasons. Mindhunters. Great series. You got to watch it. I think it's on Netflix. Could be wrong, but I think it's either on Hulu or Netflix. But it's an excellent series. It shows how the behavior. Oh my God. Let me look it up. Jesus Christ. I always forget it. FBI. Behavioral Science Unit, BSU. Behavioral Science Unit. That's the kicker. That's the reality that we have to contend with. That there's a FBI presence, and I think all states. I could be wrong, but there's a like a branch or a certain locale for FBI agents to do work in every state. And for some reason, it was just the police. It was just the police. They didn't even have the FBI. Did I understand? I might have missed something in the wording, but they were saying how they were strained and that they were not prepared for a serial killer to be on the premises and any of the places around Charlotte, North Carolina during that time period. It was just little, what is a kid with selling crack? A kid selling crack is saying, hey, look, my teacher makes $25,000 a year. I made $25,000 3 weeks ago. And I'm not supposed to sell this crack? Are you kidding me? Like it just blows my mind. And that's the focus though. Not serial killers, but crack sellers. That's the focus. We should be focused on people who are providing a service, providing a product to somebody, willingly taking it and accepting it as a trade. That's the sadness and that's the anger that I had that really pisses me off when I consider the history of the drug prohibition. I think that's the best way to say it. It's not a war on drugs, it's a drug prohibition, or just prohibition of narcotics or scheduled substances. That's what it really is. And it's really a shame because thousands of lives there's thousands of people behind bars right now because of crack cocaine. Got football numbers, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years because of some selling crack. But there have been serial killers that I think, some of them, not all of them, the ones I have encountered haven't been released or, been on parole or anything like that. I think they keep them locked up. But wait a minute, I could be wrong though. There was one guy that was like, they let him out and like 2 weeks later he killed another person. I can't remember who it was though. It was somebody. But yeah, that's the argument I'm trying to make right now, is that people like Thomas must stay behind bars or must get the needle. And he must not get the sleazy way out. He must not, he must not commit suicide. That's sleazy. I'm not against suicide if it's proper. It's not proper when an inmate commits suicide. They're trying to escape punishment. The sleazy route. Now, if you have a debilitating illness or you have some kind of issue with your body or your mind, I say maybe you have assisted suicide or something like that, and euthanasia, something like along those terms. That makes sense. It has to be drawn off by a doctor. Has to have witnesses. Has to have somebody is there. It's lethal injection. It's not like you're doing something violent or something detrimental to to your health and could be detrimental to somebody else. It's just really a shame. Just really a shame. But Thomas doesn't seem like he could hang himself. I don't know. He's kind of heavy. He got big off the pig in prison. They get 3 hots in a cot, so and I don't think he was doing any exercise, but he got big. He got real big. In just a matter of a few years. Black Cuddy, I think you're my only person in this room. I think Rick James and Texas have left. I don't know. My counter might be off, but it looks like it. But I appreciate it. Yeah, do some research. If you want to do research, go to here. I have it all written out in a about 600 to 700 words. All in here. Vocal.media/criminal/African American serial killers part 4. with those specific hyphens. Thomas represents just the monstrosity that's inherent in some human beings. I shouldn't say inherent, but it exists in some human beings, not all human beings. All human beings have the potential to do what Thomas has done, but that doesn't mean that they are going to do whatever Thomas has done or had done. He is just a lowlife and a black coward because he couldn't take women and have game and be strong and be a man and consider that as reality. He couldn't do that. That was his downfall. I'm going to play the clip again, though. I'll play the clip again one more time.
Tonight, right here on Channel 9, 2020 gave you new insight into Ted Bundy's vicious past and crimes from the 70s.
2 decades later, a serial killer here in Charlotte terrorized the community as well.
A man that victims never saw coming, someone who hid behind friendship before then revealing himself to be a monster.
Our veteran reporter Glenn Counts covered the capital murder trial of Henry Wallace back in the 90s. Tonight, he sat down with the family of Wallace's final victim, still carrying the weight of that loss all these years later.
Wait a minute. I have to excuse myself. I've been saying Thomas for the longest time. It's Wallace. Henry Louis Wallace. Excuse me. I don't know if I have to edit out every time I said Thomas, but it's Wallace. Excuse me. That was my fault. It's Wallace. Henry Louis Wallace. I was already thinking about Henry Louis Gates, and then I'm thinking about Henry Louis Wallace. And okay, Wallace. That was my fault. Excuse me. That's my error. But I'm continuing.
Henry Louis Wallace moved to Charlotte in 1991. What soon followed was a wave of death and grief unlike anything this town has ever seen.
And first-degree murder, rape, and robbery of Deborah Slaughter.
Linda Moore is the sister of Deborah Ann Slaughter, who was Henry Wallace's last victim.
She missed our children graduating from high school and our niece's wedding.
Only the grace of God got us through it, and we went through it day by day, one step at a time.
Lovey Slaughter is Deborah's mother. Wallace confessed to killing 9 women, but police believe there are at least 2 other victims, and they didn't figure out that there was a serial killer at work until the very end. They had not identified the suspect, but warned the public. Deborah was still alive and was scared and was thankful when a familiar face appeared at her door. Henry Louis Wallace.
She didn't think twice about opening the door because obviously he had always been very nice to her.
In his taped confession, Wallace revealed other victims thought the same thing, that this was a man they knew, a man they trusted, and in many cases worked with at fast food restaurants, never realizing he was a monster.
I did see her body, at the funeral home, and I saw what he did to her. He just mutilated her body.
Slaughter was stabbed 38 times, a terrible burden for her family, especially her father Alfonso, who passed away 7 years after the murder.
I think he kind of blamed himself because he was the dad, and your dad want to protect the children. And I think it was very, very hard on him. And I don't think he could forgive himself, even though he didn't have anything to do with her death.
The family is speaking out now because they don't want their loved one to be forgotten.
She has a name. Her name is Deborah Slaughter, and Deborah Slaughter has a family who is still missing her a lot today.
Wallace was given 9 death sentences. He has been on death row since 1997. All of his appeals have been shot down, but right now there is no word on when his sentence might be carried out. In East Charlotte, Glenn Counts, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Of course, Deborah Slaughter and all of those women deserve to be remembered. You can find more of our past stories about Henry Wallace by searching at WSOCTV.com. And we've also put together a special about Ted Bundy. You can find that on our Amazon Fire, Roku, and Apple TV apps. And that special is airing Saturday and Sunday at 3:30 and 9 p.m.
So there you have it. That's interesting to me. They talk about Ted Bundy. You know, Ted Bundy was one of the most prolific killers of all time. He used his handsome looks and his charm to lure women into places and to fetishize and brutalize their bodies. Similar to what Wallace. I don't know why I was saying Thomas. I think Texas was throwing me off. Yeah, but yeah, who are you talking about? Looks like she had a hard life, Rick James. Who are you talking about? But yeah, so Wallace, just wreaked havoc. He knew. I don't, like I said, I don't know if he knew, but he got, I guess that's luck. That's just a matter of circumstances that's out of your control, but you know, is in your favor. You know, you have nothing to do with it. It just happens. It's not anything mystical. It's not anything of faith or anything like that, but it just happened to be. Like he saw a sweet spot, I guess. I don't know. Maybe he just, you know, snapped and said, you know, let me just go kill some, you know, rape and murder, you know, a string of women, all black women. All black women. Women that had lives, women had dreams and aspirations, just like anybody else. That should have had been cared for, had been loved and appreciated, much like their family and friends had shown. Wallace didn't show that. He showed himself to be an ogre. Wallace showed himself to be a terrible human being on every scale of being a human. He brought out the worst in himself and everybody else. He deserves to be on death row. 9 consecutive death sentences, making it impossible for him to be on parole. Even though he is petitioning and saying that his confession was coerced. Now he's trying to fight back. Oh, well, I was coerced into saying my confession, and it violated my constitutional rights. Okay. Right. That sounds cute. That sounds hot. But it's not the truth. The truth is that you willingly committed these vicious, ugly crimes, and it's time for you to one day step up and sit on a table and have a lethal injection of 3 separate chemicals into your body and render you deceased. That's what needs to happen. That's exactly what needs to happen. For him to be so, you know, that's cavalier to me, saying that, you know, oh, I was coerced into saying that I was saying that I committed these crimes. I was coerced, violated my rights as a terror, a horror. To no end should, you know, Wallace be comforted or placed in a pleasant position for the rest of the remainder of his life. And to have him commit suicide would be a complete and utter slap in the face of every family member of the victims that he betrayed and completely destroyed. That would be horrific. So, with Wallace's, I hope I didn't say Thomas again. I mean Wallace. Wallace's, inability to be a gentleman, to be a man, to stand up, to be counted for amongst all men as someone who is rational, who is selfish, who believes in the freedom of the body and the freedom of the mind. All that is swallowed up. I see you, Son of the Sun 90. What was up with the voice? I have no idea. I have no clue. I listened to it. I still had the video. I'm gonna download it. I may put it back on just for evidence and try to tell StreamYard, I guess, or YouTube or somebody. But I listened to it. I thought y'all were capping. I really thought y'all were capping. I thought y'all, man, he's just saying that because he's talking low. Man, that nigga, he's just speaking low. No, it was really messed up. It was like, it sounded horrible. It was terrible. I'm gonna have to do that show over again. I'm gonna download it, flip it, and reverse it. Is your from okay? Seriously. No, I did not do it on purpose. I would never do that on purpose. I'm not trying to troll my audience. Not trying to troll y'all. No, I did not do it on purpose. But I will listen clearer to what y'all are saying. And I really thought all y'all were trolling the way y'all were saying it. Like y'all were saying jokes and stuff. I was like, oh, they're just trolling. I have to talk silent, or not silent, but I have to talk softly because my niece and nephew are sleeping. So I thought they were like, man, this nigga just speaking all low and everything like that, man. Whatever. He ain't nothing. But y'all were actually telling the truth. So I do appreciate that. And you guys, salute to you all. King Texas. Was Texas even in here yesterday? I know Son of the Sun 90 was. Black Rick James was. And another Bumba was another one that was saying how I sounded like I was in Daft Punk. No, I thought Texas broke your computer. No, Texas did not break my computer. That was a false statement, Son of the Sun 90. Yeah, so Wallace, man. I can't. Henry Louis Wallace. There's a documentary on YouTube called Bad Henry, or it could be on another platform as well. But it's called Bad Henry. It explores this case in depth and in detail. I'm definitely aware of that. So Taco Bell Slayer, the guy that worked at Taco. That's the thing. They disarm you. They're polite. They're quiet. Still waters run deep. That's what the late great. A lot of people said that before, but he reiterated it in this context. The late great Paul Mooney. He says, "Still waters run deep." Dahmer. He was talking about Dahmer. He was like, Dahmer doesn't say, you know what? I'm a mother. You know what? I would light candles around you. I will cut you up, put you in a pot, and eat you. I will eat you in front of your friends. Tell that. Like Dahmer was quiet. He was just like. That's when the cannibalism began. It's like the only things he said. What has Henry Louis Wallace said? How many words have they described him as saying? I'll wait. He's supposed to be a gentle giant, but he's a huge monster. He's a terrible example of human flesh. He is a horrific example of what a man is supposed to be. That's the reality. That's the truth. He conveyed that. He showed that. Every single victim that he killed just notched another line in his depravity and his unwillingness to seek proper employment, to seek a healthy romantic relationship, to live life selfishly. That's the thing I love too. All you know, they're rapists and murderers. They're all selfish. They all think about themselves. They all want to just take people's lives, take the women's lives, take the men's lives. They just want to. Got it all wrong. They're selfless. They're unselfish. They're unselfish. Because what? How is it selfish to have 9 back-to-back, death sentences? Or if you don't even get caught, what about in your mind? Even in your mind, even in the lowest, some part of your brain, you're always going to think, damn, I killed that person. Damn, I killed her. I killed them. Damn. I could be resting on a beach in Mexico or somewhere like that. Had reconstructive surgery to change my facial appearance. Sipping a Mai Tai. And I still feel some type of way. That's disturbing. That's really, extraordinarily, vicious and wicked. But it's happening right now. It's happening. There's a serial killer out right now. Very few. They're scant. There are very few because of, thankfully, capitalism, because of our advanced technological society with Ring doorbells and drones and high-powered camera systems and word of mouth and social media and things. They've done more great and good than anything else. That's extraordinary. That's a good thing that we have that in our midst. That we have that to be prepared for. And on the day that, we are judged, not by God, but by our own minds, our consciousness. That's the God, the consciousness, the mind. The one that says good and bad and evil and greatness. Sun 90's talking to Texas. They're about to squabble in the comment section. But that is the reality. That is the truth. That's what makes these things interesting. Because it's not just the sensationalized story. Oh my God, he killed 11 women, and it's the heart. It's the crux of the story. The crux is a scared little boy who never grew up, who was stunted at whatever early age because of abuse and some kind of terrible events that occurred in his mind and his life. And what do? He goes after people, that are vulnerable. They're like him. He's vulnerable. That's the thing. It's like they exchange vulnerability and vulnerabilities. They exchange that. Yes, Sun 90, he is still okay. Well, I didn't even see all that. Wow, okay. Scott, keep it 100. You are a proud child of Lucifer. Yeah, well, I am Lucifer. My birthday is actually 666. It actually spells out 666. I'm aging backwards. He was a piecemeal of for what he did. Of course he was. He is still alive. Hold on. Let me see if I can do math. He is Well, I have to do math. They do it. 59. He's 50. He'll be 60 in November. He'll be 60 years old in November. First degree murder, 9 counts. First degree rape, 8 counts. Second degree rape, first degree sexual offense, 2 counts. Second degree sexual offense, 2 counts. Criminal penalty, death. And he's been on the row since 1997. And I hope he rots there and dies, or he's put on the table and dies. I don't even know if there's a possibility for him to go into the gas chamber. I don't even know if they do the gas chamber anymore. I don't know. In certain cities or states that do it or not. Not sure. But I'm going to wrap up here. I'm going to just say a final word on Wallace. Wallace, of course, was an angel of evil. He was a definite terrible human being, and the way he did it was not commendable, but just a perfect storm for being a malevolent being in this realm. The cops were concerned about crack cocaine dealers. They were not concerned about a rapist and a murderer of black women. That's a fact. That you can look that up anywhere in anything. They were not concerned about that at all. They were concerned about rounding up people that were using crack cocaine or selling crack cocaine, mainly the latter. He actually used crack cocaine, Wallace. So it was just a perfect storm for him to be able to do it, because the investigation teams were so small that it didn't really even matter. Okay, Texas and Son of Son are going at it. I'm about to get the hell out of here. I thank you very much for watching the show. I hope you took in some bit of enlightenment and were informed by my presentation. And make sure you share. Tell more people about this channel and my series. Thank you very much. Take care.